So my name's Amanda Browder, and I'm going to be creating a large-scale fabric installation for Project One. We're going to be covering numerous buildings in the city, and all of the fabric that's going to be going into the project is going to be donated from people in the city. The project is put together by this collection of different sewing days. So people will be coming, volunteering, and we're going to be sewing the piece together to cover all these cool spaces. So the fabric donations is a way for people to kind of think about how they can physically connect to contemporary art and be, in a way, part of the project as well. I like that this project was something also that was an opportunity for people to release that fabric and also know it's going to be paying an homage to the people and the stories that were part of that fabric. The first time I started sewing was when I was a kid. I grew up in Missoula, Montana, and I learned how to sew through 4-H. I loved fabric just because the colors were really rich, the patterns were really unique, and I love the fact that each pattern had somewhat of a history. From there, I started sewing regularly. I saw it as kind of a mathematical process, and it kind of became the beginning of doing these large-scale projects. So immediately through the project, I had to get to know my city council person, I had to get to know neighbors, I had to get to know the art community. That was kind of the beginning of working with the community and learning how contemporary art can be expressed to larger communities of people beyond just the art community that we see surrounding the institutions like museums and galleries.
I'm Heather Hart, and I'm making a couple of oracles for Project One. The oracles are roof-shaped sculptures that are participatory. You learn about oracles through oral history. It's passed down from person to person. I think about my great-grandfather who built his own house and how that kind of skill really didn't get passed down through the generations. My dad learned from his friends how to build. I think that there are a lot of oral traditions that don't necessarily seem like oral traditions, but carpentry is an oral history too. That's how my great-grandfather learned to build. That's how a lot of us have learned how to do things, is through that oral tradition.
That sort of idea of kind of belonging, it always comes back to who's sort of telling the story, right? And that's why there's this sort of large, right now, kind of push for diverse voices, or just voices that you don't normally hear from, right? And the idea that there's an incredible amount that those voices can contribute. We should have a say in the way cities are designed. I think it's a function of letting people know and creating sort of more interdisciplinary conversation. People can really be involved in the way their spaces and their communities are designed. And you don't lose anything by adding voices to the conversation. You literally only gain from adding voices. You just get an enormous amount of stories and perspectives to choose from and to think about and to consider.
My name is Rafael Lozano Hammer. I'm a Mexican-Canadian artist. I am working in a new project called Voice Bridge. It's going to be a large-scale, interactive light and sound piece. The project basically asks participants to come in and leave their thoughts into a system that then visualizes this voice in conjunction with the past 400 participants. So everybody who leaves a message, it gets added to this archive, this kind of urban manifestation of these voices. And then as you cross the bridge, you hear the voices of the participants over time. I started as an artist working solely in public art. And my contribution or my obsession has always been the idea of creating platforms for self-representation, where people take over a public space.